Hello, let's take a look at our Go Live problem from Module 4. The first question tells us that we have a company that expects to have a free cash flow in year one of 540 million, which is expected to grow at a constant rate of 4% forever. If the WACC is 12%, what is the value of operations? We may remember that the value of operations formula is the expected free cash flow divided by the difference between the WACC and the growth rate. When we have a free cash flow that is already time period 1, we do not have to apply the growth rate to the free cash flow. Therefore, in this instance, it would be the expected free cash flow of 540 divided by 12% WACC minus the growth rate of 4%, giving us a value of operations of 6,750. In the next question, a similar problem, except this time we're told that the company expects a free cash flow at year 10 of 800, which is expected to grow at a constant rate of 7% thereafter. If the WACC is 9%, what is the value of operations at year 10, horizon value 10? That means that we need to first figure out the growth rate applied to the 800 because we need to find out the free cash flow at time period T1. 800 is at time period T equals 0. Therefore, in this instance, we would take the free cash flow times 1 plus the growth rate and divide that, divide that by the difference between the WACC and having some issues today, between the WACC and the expected growth rate. Fix that formula for me. So the value of operations is 42,800. In the third problem, a corporation currently has sales of 1.2 million, which are expected to grow by 11% from year 0 to year 1 and 5% from year 1 to year 2. The company has operating profitability ratio of 7% and a capital requirement ratio of 50% and expects to maintain these ratios at their current levels. The current level of operating capital is 600. Use these inputs to forecast the free cash flow for years 1 and 2. And they gave us a hint. So let's see what we already know. Our sales at time period 0 is 1.2 million. The growth rate from period 0 to 1 is 11%, and from period 1 to 2 is 5%. Our operating profit is 7%. If you remember, our operating profit is calculated as our NOPAT divided by sales, and our capital requirement is 50%. Capital requirement is calculated by operating capital divided by sales. And our operating capital was given to us at 600. So let's put together a forecasting chart. We'll put the years across the top. Then we have our growth rate in sales, our NOPAT, operating capital, investment in operating capital, and we'll use that information to calculate our free cash flows and our growth in free cash flows. So you remember it's 11% for year 1, 5% growth rate, and then 5% thereafter. So let's calculate our sales for year 1. It would be simply taking our sales plus our sales times 11%. Which gives us 1322. And then we would apply that same formula across. Our NOPAT, how would we calculate our NOPAT? Well, we know that our operating profit equals 7%, and our operating profit is calculated by our NOPAT divided by sales. Therefore, in order to calculate our NOPAT, we would simply take our sales times 7%. And then we would do that for each year thereafter. Our sales for the year times 7%, and our sales for the year times 7%. Operating capital. We're given our operating capital in year one. How would we calculate our operating capital for the rest of the periods? Well, we know that our capital requirement is 50%, and the formula for the capital requirement is operating capital divided by sales. Therefore, we would simply take our sales times 50%. And we would do that for each year. Our current year sales times 50%, our current year sales times 50%. Investment in capital is the difference between our investment in capital for the year versus, our operating capital versus our previous year operating capital. So it's 666 minus 600 for year one, 669 minus 666 for year two, and 734.27 minus 699.30 for year three. And finally, let's calculate our cash flow. Our cash flow is calculated as our NOPAT minus our investment in operating capital for each year. And our growth in our, free cash flows is our current year cash flow divided by our previous year cash flow minus 1. Number 4, a stock is expected to pay a dividend of $2.50 at the end of the year. The required rate of return is 14%. What would the stock's price be if the growth rate were 3%? Let's look at how to calculate this. We would start with our dividend at time period 1. We know that the 250 is at time period 1 because it's expected to be paid at the end of the year. It's not the most recent one that was paid. So we do not need to apply the growth rate here. We take our dividend divided by, our difference between our required rate and our growth rate, which gives us a stock price of $22.73. And number 5 tells us that D1 is $3.75, the price of the stock is $45, and the expected price at T equals 1 is $48. What are the stock's expected dividend yield, capital gains yield, and total return for the coming year? Our dividend yield is simply a reverse of the formula that we used above, and it's calculated as our dividend in time period 1 divided by our current stock price. So it's $3.75 divided by $45, which gives us an expected dividend yield of 8.3%. Our dividend yield tells us the percentage of dividends that are paid as a percent of the total price. Our capital yield is simply the growth rate. So we would take our $48 minus our $45 divided by our $45. And our expected return is the sum of the dividend and capital yield. Hopefully this answers any questions that you guys had on the Go Live session. Thank you.